So good morning, everybody, and I'm thrilled to see you. Recently, I don't even remember now where I heard it, and I was hearing somebody struggling, and I heard the person on stage or somewhere say, well, how's your prayer life? And that's not meant to be an attack. But if you are struggling, and we all have struggles, but then there's the other kind of struggle. There's the one where we are going through life on life's terms, but we cannot see a positive outcome from it. We do not have an assurance within us. We don't have that conviction of things not yet seen. And that's where I see as our prayer life lacking. That we're praying, maybe, and someone said, but I pray all the time. Maybe. But if you're not praying effectively, to where you can have some sort of confidence even within your challenges. Mm-hmm. We are human beings in a body. We're going to have challenges. Stuff's going to come up, and people are going to do things that we don't like. Anybody? Which one are you? You're the one with people doing stuff you don't like, or you're the one doing stuff we all don't like? You're him. Okay. And so it's like, well, how's your prayer life? If you are walking around, I just don't know how this is ever going to work out, and I just don't know, or I've just got to figure this out. That's the one. If you are saying, I've got to figure this out, you have an inaccurate prayer life. Let me be very clear. When you think you have to figure it out, you are arrogant and you have shoved spirit out of the picture. You don't have to do that. You're not bad for having done it. You just forgot. You cannot be separate from your source. And it's not like, oh God, you have to do this for me because I don't know how. That's not it either. There is coming into tune with who and what you are. Prayer isn't trying to get somebody, visible or invisible, to do something. Prayer is for the purpose of coming into assurance that my good is here now. And I can know exactly what to think about it. Because that's what we want to get on board with, is right thinking. Why? Anybody? Anybody know why you'd want to get on into right thinking?
To create peace.
No.
To be happy, joyous, and free.
No.
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 Cash.
Getting closer. You're getting closer.
Because it's all there already.
No.
Christ consciousness.
We are a new thought. Spirituality. Our two main students here. Thought is cause. That's why. Thought creates my experience. So I want to get into right thinking because I want to have the right experience with whatever's going on. Will you please remember that? Those of you taking notes, write it down. You should know these things. You come here on Sunday. Some of you take classes here. You should know this stuff about new thought. Thought is cause. My life is effect. There is a law of cause and effect, and it does not work the other way around. Effect will never be cause. Cause will always be effect, and thought is cause. I'm not bad for what I think, but it is possible I have forgotten the source of my good, and my thinking reflects it. Anybody? Anybody, can you pinpoint where your thinking might reflect where you forgot the source of your good? Mm-hmm. And now you are trying to create your own good instead of accept the good that you are. See, where prayer has gotten confused over the years is some teachers, even in New Thought, will tell you, well, ask for what you want. Well, who are you asking? Because if the God of your being doesn't know what you want, you need a new God. If omnipresent being, if omnipotent being, if omniscience, and if power, presence, and intelligence doesn't already know what you want before you ask, you need a new God in your understanding. And so, let's make an assumption now. The God that I am about to ask for a new car, a new relationship, to quit smoking, to quit drinking, to live in a new home, to whatever, that God that I'm about to ask for this, make an assumption now. That God knows. Already knows. So if and is not holding out on me. Just make an assumption now, the God of your being is not holding out on you for your good, is not waiting until you are well behaved for you to have your good. Because quite frankly, if good behavior did it, my goodness, so many people would not have much. Now, so if you make the assumption, okay, the God of my being, the source of my being, already knows what I want, then there can only be one place that's holding out my good, that is pushing it away, and it's me. It can only be me that is saying no to my good. If God's nature is to say yes and never say no, then it has to be me that is saying no. Well, it can't be because I'm stupid. Because I'm not stupid. I'm quite intelligent. I'm quite smart. So it can't be stupidity that's doing it. It could only be confusion. It could only be forgetfulness. Oh, I forgot. And because I forgot, I don't have this right now. I work with addicts and alcoholics and what have you in recovery, and somebody called me the other night and said, I'm so upset. You know, I see all these beautiful people on the street and everything, and I think, why don't I get to have a boyfriend? Why don't I get to have this? I said, because you're 105 days sober. That's why you don't get to have it. Just connect with Spirit. Just pray. Just show up for your well-being today. All that other stuff may or may not follow. But your well-being will. Your security will follow. When you make connection with your source your number one priority, serenity has to follow. Peace of mind has to follow. It has to. I've proven it for myself over and over again. And I've proven when I forget. Serenity is unavailable to me at that moment because I can't find it. Why can't I find it? Because I'm saying, I don't want you. I don't want you. Many people around this election don't want serenity. They think that if their candidate gets in, everything will be great. Few people have decided, no, I can't say few people I know at least have decided God is either way. It doesn't mean I shouldn't vote, but God is either way. I'm playing a game here. I'm an active participant in all of it. But I don't normally bring up a lot of the election stuff, but my goodness, what it's doing to people in their minds, what it's doing to people in their homes and in their relationships. This week I had an incident with my brother. And it was a wonderful incident, I gotta tell you. My oldest brother put something online that I found really offensive to me as a gay man. Put a picture of President Obama kissing on the lips the Italian leader, and sent out, put a post, share this. The president doesn't want you to see this. Well, I mean, there's so many people looking on in this picture, including Michelle Obama. It is a custom to kiss this leader this way. And I wrote to my brother and I said, do you have any idea of how offensive this is to me, your gay brother? I said, you're saying that it would humiliate our current president. Our current, whether you believe in his politics or not, he is our president and we live in America. There should be a certain respect for the office. And so, and I said, you want to humiliate him as if he's doing something wrong. What about me? And he said, well, I love you and David. It's not that. I said, but what you're saying here is. And I didn't hear anything for a day. And the next day, I got a letter of apology. And he said, and I've removed it. He said, I would never want to hurt you guys. And I apologized for putting that on. I was mad about other things. I said, yeah, but you were using this. And he said, I know. And I was wrong for it. He said, who you vote for is your business. That is absolutely your business. But when you put things on this, you're telling me I'm bad in your eyes. That there's something wrong with me in your eyes. And he got it. He absolutely got it. And he said, I love you. And I wouldn't want to do that. Because you see, when we're doing it, it's our prayer life. What we're saying, when we keep saying, this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong, do you understand what you're saying? My life is bad, my life is bad, my life is bad, my life is bad. Every time you point out in the world, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, you're praying, my life is bad, my life is bad, my life is bad, my life is bad. I understand we don't like everything, but when I am publicly proclaiming that I want to shame people, that I want to humiliate people, that I want to do this because I hurt, and I don't know what to do with that hurt. And when we begin to look at it differently and say, oh, there is another thing to do with that hurt. And we come here to Unity to remember that there's an alternative to splaying our hurt. And it is to get quiet and acknowledge there is one power and one presence as the universe and as my life, God the good, omnipotence. And within that, it is safe to experience this hurt. And I don't have to hurt somebody else to try to get rid of it. Has anyone here ever eliminated their pain by giving it to someone else? Anybody?
Yeah.
Or have you only exacerbated it? Have you only made your pain bigger by trying to throw it on somebody else? I'm not saying you can't do it and be right. You could name all the facts and give all the facts you want. I was right about this and I was right about this. Yes, but you're still in pain. Oh, I've been right so many times in my life. And I have scars to show it. They're mostly inside. But, so it didn't satisfy me. Even as a kid, I'd win arguments with my mother. And I was always right. But we both walked away in pain. And anybody here ever had parental issues?
Never.
But I fully believe no one wants to hate their mother. No matter how hateful their mother may be. No one wants to hate their mother or their father. No one wants to. And so therefore, some of us may not be able to be in the same room to love our parents. But somewhere in there, there's an innate love. I believe it because I've been, in 6th grade, I used to sit in the back of the church and think, how could I kill my mother and my stepfather and not get caught? That's the kind of pain I was in at 10 years old, 10, 11 years old. Well, I didn't do it. And I went on, and in my adulthood, after hurting myself over and over and over and over and over again, I made peace with my parents because I found a way to love myself. I didn't need them to have been different in my childhood. I got a prayer life. And here's what's so exciting. In my prayer life, I stopped asking God for anything. I stopped asking. I got to a point, especially in early recovery, where I became okay. If life never gets better than this, I'm still good. If it never gets any better than this, I'm still good. And I'm at peace, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with my life. There's other stuff I'd like to have and experience, but if I never get them, I will still be okay, and I knew it. And that's because my prayer life was so strong. Not my religious life. I wasn't even going to church yet. I was just praying differently because I was affirming my oneness with God. And I knew that I was loved by an invisible presence. And in that love, I didn't need to hurt anybody else. I didn't need to get back at anybody. I didn't need to splay. Suddenly it became safe to go into therapy and deal with past hurts because I was no longer trying to justify them. I wanted to find a way to love my enemies. I really and genuinely wanted, it became okay if everybody got away with it. Because my prayer life was so strong and so powerful. Now, over the years, I have rescinded a few of those free passes and created a few new resentments. Imagine. Because I let my prayer life be less diligent. And so I've been picking up again on my prayer life and looking at how is your prayer life, Shawn? How is your prayer life? Would you rather know God than what this means, what this means, what this means in the intellect? And on so many topics now, I would rather, and I can still play amongst all of us. I can still, I can still vote, I can still not vote. That's my prerogative. I can participate where I'm called to for the experience. I'm in a body. I want to experience things. I'm not here to just sit and pray and contact. In my first seminary, my interfaith seminary, we had this guy who went to India in the 70s and then just didn't come back for many years, and he became this Swami. And he said he could pray or meditate for 7 or 8 hours at a time. And while he was rather blissed out, he had not one tool for living amongst people. He had no capacity to know how to function in amongst people. And as soon as he came back, he got somebody pregnant. Somebody he did not love pregnant. And then he did the honorable thing and he married them and everything, but he's not happy. Because he had no tools, he had no functions on how to interact with everybody, how to just common courtesy, common behaviors. But he was blissed out for a long time, and then once he saw, it didn't work, his practice diminished. And his practice diminished. And his practice diminished. And for a lot of us, our practice can diminish if we say, that didn't work out the way I thought it was going to. I prayed to get this and I didn't get it. So therefore prayer must not work. I stayed up half a night one night praying for a lottery. A $95 million lottery. Many years ago, I prayed just the way Emmett Fox told me to in his book. Affirm what you want, affirm what you want, affirm what you want. And I did. I said the words exactly. And I was genuinely surprised the next day when I did not win. Read a couple of things here. From Charles Fillmore's and the Revealing Word. And it says, in true prayer, it is communion between man and God. Communion, not communication. What is communion? What does union mean? It is the melding of the two in communion. There's a common bond. There's a common ground. And so that's what true prayer is communion between God and man. In true prayer, we take with us words of truth, a statement of truth, or an affirmation, and turn our attention within, to the very center of our being, and we affirm these words of truth and meditate on them. Then get very still and wait in the silence for them to be made real to us. You ever experienced that, where you're praying and suddenly you have that aha? You're in your prayer and say, oh my gosh, of course. The revelation just suddenly happens and you get, that's why I sat down to pray, or I got on my knees to pray. It's why I got quiet for that moment when the light went off. And that's why I went there. And you realize, I didn't figure that out at all. I had a revelation. And this is one of my favorites. Prayer can be defined in many ways, and it can be said to be the taking hold of God's willingness. And I think that was a different definition than I've ever heard before. The taking hold of God's willingness. Well, it depends what you think God's will to be. For me, I do believe God, within spirit, within law, within principle, that willingness is for me, not that desire, not that want, but that willingness is for me to be happy, joyous, and free. Happy, joyous, and free. And within all circumstances, some aspect of that is possible, because you see, if I am confident in my good, then there is a joy within me, no matter what's going on in my body, in my circumstance. There is still a certain confidence, a certain assurance that there is a wellness here that I'm not necessarily aware of. And it says that Jesus' teachings forbade all prayers of doubt. So you see, we don't want to go into our silent time, our prayer time, to question whether or not there could be a positive outcome here. We don't want to convince the source of our being that bad things are happening. Trust me, you really do not want to convince divine law, divine principle, divine truth, spirit, whatever you wish to call it. You want to call it God, whatever you want to call it, that bad stuff is happening, from the weather to your body, to your relationships, to your neighbors, to your world, to your money. You don't want that. Because if the source of your being could see your trouble, it would be your trouble. The source of your being is love, is light, is wisdom, is truth, is joy. This is the source of our being. And I know how tempting it can be to say, God, give me a break here. God, cut me a break. God, fix this. God, heal this. I heard a woman speak the other night, and she said that whenever anything, quote unquote, bad happens, she just assumes that's her higher power testing her. And I thought, oh, you've got a mean higher power. Man, I couldn't bear that. Years ago, I heard a minister at an interfaith graduation, and she had very great difficulty walking. And she said a prayer for the class, and then she said, and God, if you could make my legs just one little bit better, I would be so grateful. And I know she meant that as humility. But if you're going to take that time to pray for a little, pray for the whole thing. Pray to get up and walk. I dare you. Heal. They come over there and drag you out of that chair. Now, we are advised from our teachers to... I watched somebody do that in a club act years ago. They took somebody's crutches who were in the front row, and they said, heal! And the crutches fell to the floor. It's a good laugh. We are advised to ask for what we want, but what do you want? I understand we think we want a car, we think we want a house, we think we want stuff in the world. But what we want is the source of the house, the source of the car, the source of the relationship. We want the source. We want that source in our mind. We want that source in our consciousness. We want that source in every cell, every tissue, every fiber of our being. We want to know the source of health. We want to know the source of well-being. We want to know the source of peace. That's what we want. Focus on that in your prayers. Don't settle for a car. As nice a car as you can imagine. Don't settle for a house as nice as you can imagine. Don't settle for cash as much as you could imagine. It still won't let you know the source of it, and so therefore you will fear losing it, getting a ding in it, wrecking it, or getting sick again. If I only know the effect, I don't know the cause. We need to put source into our thought. Why? Thank you, dear Lord. Read a little bit here from the revealing word. What? Do not supplicate or beg God to give you what you need, but get still and think about the inexhaustible resources of infinite mind. its presence in all its fullness, and its constant readiness to, I love this, its constant readiness to manifest itself for you when its laws are complied with. Infinite supply is eager and ready to manifest, and all it needs of us is to comply with the laws of its manifestation. That's all it needs. And if you want to know more about those laws, there's a great website, truthunity.net. Truth Unity. Mark Hicks has put together this website that is just filled with just about everything you could ever hope for in unity. I'm going to finish with a couple of readings from this wonderful book, my Holy Spirit's Interpretation of the New Testament. And the first reading is from Ephesians. That's page 346. And it says here, give as you would receive. Let this reminder guide your decision to deliver through the heart. For as you give, you shall receive. In the process of God, there is no favoritism. The process is always the same. It is the process of freedom. Through freedom, receiving is requested by that which you give. Spirit is the great deliverer. You are the free child of God. Coercion can have no influence over you. You may decide what you want, ask for what you want, and you will receive in kind. Look therefore within your heart. Know what you truly want before you ask. In this way, you only receive blessings upon your true desire, which is of God. I'm going to tell you, when I read things like that, and in the beginning, when I started praying in earnest over 20 years ago, with an education towards the law of manifestation, I decided right then and there that anything I could possibly want would not bring about dire consequences. There was not any way that I could manifest my good and have to lose another piece of good. That could not be possible in the God of my being. I could not let that be one of the possibilities. Only my good could be manifested if I became willing to have my good. It was not a sacrifice, it was a welcoming into my consciousness of possibility. It says, every thought taken up as desire is prayer. All prayer is answered through God just as you have asked. Because if you didn't ask believing, how are you going to manifest it? Be mindful, therefore, of that which you ask. Watch yourself and know yourself as you watch. Pray also for your brothers and your sisters in the true desire of your heart. For as you ask for them, you receive. And I know that is a dire threat, but really it's a lovely promise. If you want to know, while you're experiencing some of the stuff you're experiencing, you might say, what have I prayed for another, consciously or unconsciously? Have I asked that anyone else fail? Have I asked that anyone else not prosper? Have I asked that any being on this planet come to harm? Spiritually, emotionally, physically. It's not that I'm being punished for that, but I'm not separate from everybody else. And so I get to experience usually a fuzzy mixture of pain and pleasure. Because I'm fuzzy about it all. Oh, this one gets good, and this one doesn't, and this one, this one, and and that's even this Tuesday. Don't wish for the good of one and the bad of another. Ask to be enlightened. Ask yourself for enlightenment and awakening. Years ago, there was a different president in office. Years ago. And somebody was upset about it in a class of mine, and I said, pray for their prosperity. And she said, no, that means they'll get what they want. I said, no, it means they'll wake up. They will awaken. Would you be willing that everyone in this whole political arena awaken? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be a cool thing? Does that occur to you that that's even a possibility? Mm-hmm. That everyone awakens to this new thought? Because you see, if you wish that one doesn't awaken, then what do you get to experience in your heart? What part of you starts to clog up and get small? Go ahead and campaign for the one you want, but put trash in the one you don't want. Please, oh please, oh please. It's not helping you. It really is not helping you, and it's not helping me, quite frankly. Quit trying to clog me. Your sight is your feedback on your prayers. You shall know by what you see. You shall know by what you see what you have been asking for. Yeah, but so what you see is problems in some form what you've been asking for. If you're not joyous because of what you see, ask God differently by remembering who you are and how you ask. Always you receive as you have asked. Watch therefore what it is that you ask. And this other reading I want to read to you. And it comes from Matthew chapter 7. And it says, look after your own heart that it may be healed. Lay down your judgments and ask only for love now. And who are you asking?
Source.
Yourself. Yes, thank you. Because God certainly isn't withholding love. Do not take my words lightly without practice. For to listen to and to agree, but not to practice, is not to have heard. And one who will not hear cannot be healed. Seek out the prayers of your heart. Ask your source to make it whole again. For your source knows that your heart seeks to be made whole, and it awaits only your willingness to give what you ask. Trust your source to give as you ask truly, but know it is the healthy heart it listens to. When it says healthy heart, we're not talking about sickness. We're talking about dis-ease. We're talking about the hardened heart. If your heart is sick, it's interesting that they use that word here. If your heart is sick, for what is sick except the confusion between God and something else? If your heart is sick and it asks the source to grant it its sickness, the source does not listen. It waits until its child asks to be healed. And then the source reveals its gifts, that they may be used for the purpose they were intended. For the source will not assist the child in maintaining its sickness, but the source will point the willing child in the direction of its health, that the child may be made whole through its own willingness. Therefore, see your brothers and sisters as yourself. Know that their heart is the same as yours. Although they may seem to ask for sickness, their heart knows it wants its health. So do not answer their cry for sickness by returning anger for anger or hurt for hurt. Answer the heart's quiet cry for health by giving as the source would give. Give health for health, and it is health that you will receive.